Welcome to the Harnessing Happiness podcast. Upbeat vibes generated and transferred to you. Now here's your host, Sarah J Naylor.
Hello and welcome to Harnessing Happiness with myself, Sarah J Naylor. Thank you so much for dropping on by. I am delighted today to have the fabulous Hayley Forbes as a guest for you. She's absolutely, she's brilliant. I've had so many conversations with her, it's absolutely fab, and I'm really delighted to have her on board. So I'm going to hand over to Hayley to take centre stage to introduce herself, and then let's get chatting. Over to you, Hayley.
Thanks so much for having me here, Sarah. I am excited. So yes, I am Hayley Forbes. I am a mindset and business coach and a mum to 4 young children, and if you can't tell by the accent, I am up in Scotland.
Yes, it's a bit of a giveaway, but then again, you could be elsewhere in the world, of course. And yes, you've been experiencing some poor weather up there in Scotland as well of late, haven't you? What's been happening?
Yeah, so full week with no power, no heating, no running water. Luckily, we've got a fire in the house, so we literally camped, the 6 of us, in the living room for a full week by the fire.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was fun, but so grateful we had that fire to keep us going. Even more grateful we've got electricity and heating and water again now, though.
Oh, thank goodness. I mean, but with 4 children, that is a challenge. But then you're used to a bit of a challenge, aren't you, Hayley? do share with my fabulous listeners one of your well, I think it's great, but maybe it's crazy. Oh, maybe it's just wonderful and exciting. What did you do not long back?
There's a funny story. I'll not go into all because it'll take too long, but essentially I got bit in the leg by a spider 3 times, and I actually thought there was bed bugs, even though our mattress was only a year old. This obviously led to the conversation of, I don't want to be in this house any longer. I think we should go travelling, Derek. So 6 weeks later, giving up everything. We gave up our house, we got a storage unit, gave the rest of our things away, packed the 4 kids. My youngest was only 7 months at the time.
Oh my gosh.
In a car, and we went travelling.
Oh my word. And that was all after a spider bite. Or 3.
Yeah, that's like literally, I just need one thing to, then I was like that, no, there must be bed bugs. I actually got Derek to get rid of the mattress, but it was so big he had to sew it up.
Oh my gosh.
There was absolutely nothing in the mattress. I think I was still like postpartum baby brain, only my baby was only just before 6 months then, and then I was like, well, we don't have a mattress anymore.
Oh my gosh.
May as well not stay here anymore.
Oh my God, but that's such a big undertaking. 4 children, and what ages are they?
My eldest has just turned 9, and then I've got a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Oh my gosh. So they would have been, so we're going back a couple of years then, so drop 2 years on all of those. And you went where?
So we done Scotland first in a caravan, then we gave up the caravan, we went down to England, we done round England, we went over to France, we done France, we went over to Belgium, we done Belgium, and then the plan was come back for a little while and then leave again, but obviously COVID hit.
Yeah.
So we temporarily went back to Fife, where we are originally from, before coming up north to Aberdeenshire, where we now live.
Oh my gosh. So have you got, well, I mean, obviously you're really, really busy with work, and you've got masses of exciting stuff going on, which is awesome, because you work with sort of very much on the Instagram platform, don't you? Which I can't get my head around Instagram. Well, I can a little bit, and then I'm going, do I really know what I'm doing? I don't know. Maybe I'll have a go. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can always find me on Instagram. It's my happy place. It's my other family.
What do you love about it so much?
I got involved in Instagram back in 2017, and I used it to start a mum blog page, so to document sort of motherhood. And then when I was pregnant with my 4th baby, I really struggled in that pregnancy. I was bedbound from like 19 weeks. I was hospitalised at 35 weeks. We had to bring the C-section early, and Instagram just became like, I had so much support, but also I was really open and shared about how much I really didn't enjoy the pregnancy. And I think a lot of mums felt that actually sometimes pregnancy can be a horrific time. And then afterwards, it just grew and grew, the support, the community. And then when I started my coaching business, I started a new page. So Instagram was just it's where I was comfortable. I know how to grow communities on there. I know how to build relationships. And that's what I've very much done in my coaching world as well. It's just genuine connection. And that's what I love. I love that when I'm on my stories talking, I'm not talking to the camera. I'm having a conversation with the person behind it. And I feel like it's like this family and this support system, and I've been supported and I've been able to support people through that app, so it's really close to my heart, as well as I love it for business as well.
Oh, that's amazing. So I mean, as you say, you found a community and created a community because of the difficulties you were having going through pregnancy, and I guess you got from other people what other people would have got from you, that sort of acknowledgement that it's okay not for it not to be all roses. I mean it's a long time since I was pregnant. In fact, it is 23 years ago. I've only had the one. He made up for half a dozen. But I had difficulties in my pregnancy. I actually had parvovirus when I was pregnant because I had a rash, and I went to the doctors and they said, oh, there's nothing wrong. But anyway, I went for, I think it was either my 16-week or 22-week scan. And you could see all this sort of shadowing around my son's sort of vital organs. And so I was then sort of scooted off to another Birmingham hospital, and I'm in Nottingham, so because they were going to do a blood transfusion whilst my son was in the womb, so it was all quite dramatic. But I actually felt perfectly well within myself, even though there were all these sort of issues. Everything was absolutely fine, and I didn't have to have that in the end anyway. But you know, just because you're pregnant doesn't mean it's all rosy, does it? But you've kind of almost, and if you've got people in a community that can help you feel that you're not alone and it's okay to feel like this, or it's okay to go through all these emotions, that's really important.
100%. And I think that's what I try to do on my coaching page as well. I'm so big on celebrating and milestones and abundance, but I always try to show the honest side as well. So when we lost power last week, I documented it. I still showed up, not as much, but I still showed up. And I was like there was this one picture that I took, actually. I was celebrating a big milestone in my business, and my husband bought me a bottle of champagne and a bunch of flowers.
Aww.
And I got a gift from one of my coaches that came in this little Tiffany box and things.
Aww.
So here's me, not showered for a week, no lights, sitting in front of this fire with my champagne and my Tiffany box. And I was like, that is the duality though. And that's what I always want to show, is that in the coaching world and personal development world, it can be so easy to just be, here's all the good stuff, and it gets to be good and positive most of the time, but there's another side to it as well. There's a side that you're exhausted, or things are hard, or life happens, and I'm really passionate about showing that still. So I think that's came from my mum blog page, and I've brought that into my coaching page, and I know it's something a lot of my followers say. They're like, I love that you show both sides. It's like, give permission to fully celebrate their wins, but also be like, do you know what, life's a little bit not great just now, do you know what I mean? We're living here with no water, no heating, no nothing, and I'm still coming on and showing some gratitude, but it's not always roses.
Yeah, well, it's the authenticity, isn't it? It really is, and it's showing that you're real. Although I have to say, when I put on a post of you, I don't know, like 2 or 3 months back, and I put on that I was having a bit of a bad time, and usually I just post, like you say, positive stuff, because actually that's how I am, like 95% of the time anyway, so I am being authentic. But I'd had a really sort of bad time. I put it on and people go, are you okay? Are you all right? I had people messaging me privately, are you sure you're okay? I'm going, yes, I'm fine. I was just trying to be authentic. Or maybe I just keep with the positive stuff, because that's what people expect from me. But as I say, as a rule of thumb, that's who I am. But I take my hat off to you, because the way you've got 4 children, and is it 2 or 3 of them that have got autism?
So my 2 eldest sons, and they've got opposite types. So my eldest son has got more sort of classic autism, and my 6-year-old is more what used to be called Asperger's. It's all under the one umbrella now, right. But he's like the opposite. They're 2 opposites.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a challenge as well. But yeah, we've just learnt to navigate it, and it's just I just see it as their personality now. It's just their personality, and we've had to adjust how we thought we would parent based on that. So yeah, it's taught me a lot of life lessons as well.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, and that's, I'm a big, not advocate's the wrong word, opposite of advocate. I don't like labels. I really don't like labels, because we are all unique individuals in our own right. And whether somebody's got, in inverted commas, sort of Asperger's or autism or something like that, as you said, it's just down to personality, and it's how people experience the world and how you experience it based on your experiences to date, your internal drivers, and how you see and view the world, and your influences around you. And how that impacts, because we can all be in the same room and experience the same thing in completely different ways depending upon our personality types. And that goes for people, just because somebody's got autism, it doesn't make them negatively wrong, it just makes them different to what we've all perceived to be the norm.
I think the only problem that ever occurs is the thought process that we should all be the same, that we should all experience the same thing or a similar thing. And that's where the issue is the thought process, that where if you want to class a certain type of people as normal, less, I think, than half the world would fit into that box.
I don't think anybody would really, would they?
Yeah, no, definitely not. But like what your sort of standard and what is expected of you, I think that is when those expectations are brought in of how someone should experience, and it's just social conditioning, isn't it? Mm-hmm. There's so much of it, and it comes into play, I think, even more for people with autism, is that social expectation and the conditioning we have of how people should behave or react or show up in certain points.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's a whole subject. It's a massive subject for sort of discussion, because who is it that sort of dictates all of these rules of how we should and we shouldn't behave in the very first instance? And I'm kind of like, when it comes down to sort of clothing and what we should wear, I mean, who says that women should wear pink and men should wear blue and men wear trousers and girls wear skirts? Who? Why? What? It's just like, no, wear what you want to wear. It's about expression of the self. I mean, I believe we're just spirit having a human experience, and the body is just a vehicle for us to have that experience in. And so does it really matter how we adorn it? It's what makes you tick at the end of the day, isn't it? And that's again down to personality types. We are all unique. Because I mean, crikey, if we were all the same, it would be a ruddy boring world.
Totally agree. Well, I'm a massive rule breaker over here.
Oh yes. I take my hat off to you again, Hayley. I mean, how you do what you. I mean, I always wanted my son in bed just so I could go, oh my gosh, and let me breathe. But you just sort of allow your children to make their own decisions. How does that work? I mean, do talk to me more about it.
Yeah, so we follow a parenting philosophy called radical unschooling. So there's no rules. It's all based on self-regulation. So the kids regulate what they eat, their sleep, what schedules they want to be on, if they take part in chores or not. And it's all about parenting through boundaries and mutual respect. So we all get a say as a family. I treat my kids how I treat my husband. My husband may argue and say I treat my children slightly better than him, but essentially there's not a hierarchy in the house. And it works for us. It was a hard process to go through because we had to de-school ourselves and the children to uncondition ourselves. But we're sort of 3.5, 4 years into it now, and it's the best thing in the world. The kids are just amazing. They're so good. And my son, who needed one-to-one support in school when he was only in school for 3 months, because of his autism, and he needed flashcards to even go to the bathroom, needs none of that anymore. None whatsoever. You wouldn't even tell. There's a few key markers you can still tell. He needs things like he doesn't like loud noises. Certain noises still sort of activate something on him. But the majority of the time you wouldn't tell. And I think it's because he feels fully in control of his own life. And as I say, their food and things, we're all vegan and they're totally cool with that. I don't cook 6 meals a day or anything, though. They cook dinner and they can eat it or not, but it's not forced. It's like, well, if you don't want it, go and help yourself to a snack. There's no, this is good food, that's bad food, you must finish your plate of food before you eat anything else. It's just all like letting them fully have full body autonomy and really experience this human experience in the way that they want to and get to.
So what prompted you to go down that route in the first instance and then completely change the way that you were? And what inspired that?
We actually moved to the house we were in at the time because of the education system, because it was the catchment area to the top schools in Scotland. So I was all for education. They were in lots of extracurricular activities. And I thought that was the right thing to do, because that's what society teaches you. And then my son didn't get on well at nursery. He went to school and he just was going downhill, and he just wasn't enjoying it. He was withdrawing into himself. It just wasn't good. There was a few things. I stopped him doing homework. The school weren't happy with that, but I did. And then eventually I was taking him to school one day and he says, "Mummy, Dad, I have to go to school." And I says, "Well, everybody goes to school." He says, "But why?" And I was like, "Leave it with me, kids." And I went to school that day and I picked him up and I was like, "You don't have to go to school if you don't want to. We can homeschool you." So we looked into it, had more conversations. 3 weeks later, we took him out of school and I started going like traditional workbooks and things. And he's so intelligent, but it was taking him like an hour to do a 10-minute task.
Yeah.
I'd joined some home educating groups by then and found out about something called unschooling. So unschooling is when it's very child-led, you don't do workbooks, like it's based on if they're interested in a subject, you follow that subject, very child-led. So we started doing that, and then again, just through research and joining Facebook groups and things, I came across radical unschooling, which essentially is that, but way more. It goes into every part of life, and I just heard about this and I was like, it makes so much sense. There's always been a part of me. I remember when my son was 3, I stopped into my mum's work. It was a weekend, and he was due to start nursery on the Monday, and she went, "How are you feeling?" And I was like, "Well, his life's over." And she went, "Hayley, he's 3. What do you mean his life's over?" And I says, "Well, that's it. It's nursery, and then it's school, then it's college or university, then it's a job until he retires, and then he's too old and tired to do anything. Like, this is my baby boy." And so I've always had something in me that's felt a little bit so yeah, we, as I say, we started it. None of the other kids went to nursery or school. We went travelling, and the more we lived it, the more. And at first we had lots of people doubting us, because the kids binged for the first year. They binged on snacks, they binged on electronics.
Oh yes, let me at it, yes!
Before it's been restricted, they still think like this is going to be taken away at some point. Whereas now, it's like I was saying to one of my friends today, like for Christmas, my kids have asked for nothing. Well, my daughters asked for pink presents. My 4-year-olds asked for cool presents. And the older 2 are just let Santa bring us like whatever. If he wants to get us something, he can. And I think because a lot of the conditioning's been unpicked and they're not in school, so it's not this pressure to like this. I don't want to say like jealousy, but it's like
the peer pressure and that
the peer pressure. And the kids, we get comments so much about how amazing the kids are, and it wasn't easy at all. But it's the best thing I've ever done, and it's just
brilliant.
Just feels right now, like. And I actually got a tagline for my coaching business from, I had a conversation with my husband, and I'd asked my son what he wants to be when he's older. And when he went away, I says, "Derek, I feel horrible." I says, "I've just asked him what he wants to do." And he's only like, he was like 6 or 7 at the time. And I says, "I never want to ask him that again." I says, "Instead, I don't want to teach him how to work for a living. I want to teach him how to live for a living, and then find out how to get paid for that." And then he's 9, he codes computer games,
wow.
He does YouTube videos, he edits profile pictures. He came to me the other day, I was cutting his hair, and I've never spoke to him about cryptocurrency, and he was literally like, "Mum, don't you think it's crazy that in 2010 someone bought a pizza for 10,000 Bitcoin? Bet they're regretting that now." How do you know about Bitcoin? And he went, "Well, I don't really know much about it. Like, it's a cryptocurrency, but I don't know lots about it." I was like,
"Oh, hey, yes." You're supporting them and you're encouraging them and allowing them to be themselves. And that's one thing that I always wanted for my son as well. And it was one thing that, my ex-husband and I sort of always agreed on. We didn't want, it was never about pushing him into anything. It's about supporting him to be himself. And you know, I gave up. The amount of times I was up and down to the school, that's another matter altogether. And eventually I did say to, you know, I sort of became very hands off with the homework stuff, because it's just like, Fred, just, you know what you need to do, because it was a battle I wasn't worth fighting. And the teachers all liked him, but he wasn't really interested, you know. I mean, he was bored, but he was, you know, he's got his passions, he's got his interests, and he's got his own skate clothing brand that he's developed on his own, and it's all to do with his passions and his interests, which is what I've always supported. He's worked for his dad, he builds garden rooms, he's learned how to plaster, he's a trained plasterer, so he's got practical skills, but he's also got the creative side, you know, and he's learned stuff because he's interested in it. And that's something I'm really passionate about when you come back to education, is that children have this ability to learn these subjects, but so maybe you need to learn maths, English, science, whatever, but you do it around the subject that you're interested in. Why does it have to be in a certain format if you can pick and choose modules and it's supported? But it's all about following your flow. It's all about following what you're passionate about. There will always be a career aligned with the things that you're interested in. And that's my big passion. It's encouraging people to be their authentic true selves and follow the flow, because then that's when you're happy. And actually, that brings me to my question. What makes you a happy person, Hayley?
I'm one of these really annoying people that are just genuinely happy, like 99% of the time. Like, I wake up in the morning and I'm like singing and opening the curtains. I'm like, good morning. We've got a hall window, so you go down our stairs a little bit, then there's a window out to the back, and it's beautiful because we've got a horse behind in the field behind us now. But every morning, me and my daughter, I'm always like, good morning world, it's a brand new day. And like every single day we say this, and she doesn't know.
Fantastic.
So but I'd say like that comes from I've always had something inside of me, even when most of my life I was very much a people pleaser, but underneath that I've always had like this passion in this. I'd people please so far unless someone kind of crossed a boundary of mine or something I felt really strongly about, and I've just always had this thing of like a thirst for knowledge, and there's not one way to do things, and there's really like objective. I love learning about things and seeing different sides, and I think when you come back to curiosity, it changes. You don't get attached to an outcome, which
Absolutely.
is often why we get stressed or angry, so I think my happiness probably comes to my curiosity of why is this situation happening, or why am I feeling this way, or how can we move forward from this?
Absolutely. It's that internal inquiry, it's that curiosity, it's looking at things. And you hit on a word, perspective, which I'm really sort of passionate about, because I coined and trademarked 8 mindset, which is acceptance, perspective and energy. Because actually when you actually change the perspective of something and channel your energy accordingly, you know, you can accept what you can and you can't change, is the A. And then the perspective, it's all about that. You know, things aren't just one way. It depends on how you look at it. And there's so many different degrees of looking at something. And you can always find, I believe, a positive in something. Even in a negative situation, there will be something positive if you choose to look for it. I mean, you know, you can't force that upon anybody. It's up to people individually. But I'm a wholehearted supporter of that and that curiosity. Because that is just, you know, you have an inquiring mind. As you say, you can reflect back on yourself. Go, well, actually, why have I got that result? What do I need to do differently? How did that? No, let's change that. I'll do something different to get a different outcome. So how have you used your positive mindset then to, you know, overcome challenging situations in your life? I mean, the stuff that you've obviously referred to, I mean, you've obviously pivoted and changed and completely reworked how you educate your children, which is awesome. But has there been anything else that's been specifically sort of challenging, apart from, you know, all the other things you've mentioned?
Yeah, so I think 2 things for me spring to mind, and one is probably financial struggle and where we grew up. We grew up in not a great council estate, so they actually had to change the name of the street we lived in because even homeless people wouldn't go and live in that.
Gosh.
It wasn't the best. So it was getting through that, and I remember times of just still being in gratitude, and I say that to my husband, like there was times when we had to choose between if you eat or you put gas, you put heating into the flat we were in, and it was very much still going through and believing that the possibility was, like I always say, come back to gratitude, but believe that there's a better future possible, and that's something I've always done. So I was pregnant, and I remember we lived in this like tiny little ground floor flat. There was like mold in the walls. It was great. And I was at college studying, and I took on a part-time job, and I got let go from the job just before I'd earned enough to get maternity. So I was like, this new baby was coming. My husband was also at college and worked part-time. And I remember I covered up my bump because I was 7 months pregnant, and I went and got a job in a chip shop, and I worked literally after college, up until he was nearly born. So just that. But again, coming back to, that's not, I know so many people have got it worse than that. So it's grateful for we even had a house, and grateful for we've even got this opportunity to choose between going and buying food or having heating in the house. So I think that mindset really helped me move forward and push past what could have been a very different path. And then the next one for me is health. So I've got a health condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I used to be on like 30 to 40 meds a day for it. Oh my gosh. Still couldn't get under control, and then it's ruined my stomach. So I've got ulcers, and the stomach linings are eroded and things. So I now can't have any painkillers.
Oh, Hayley.
And that was about 4 years ago, so I had to learn how to cope still being in the same amount of pain without any pain meds.
Oh my
gosh. And it's a condition that the doctor said, like, by the time you're 50, you'll be in a wheelchair and it's going to get worse. And I remember I used to sit and like struggle and be in pain and really let my mind get carried away with that. And then one day I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm not going to let this dictate my life. And I don't believe now I will be in a wheelchair by the time I'm 50, but if that is going to be the case, I'm going to live my life to the fullest first.
Yeah.
So it was a mindset massively. I'd done different things as well. It's one of the reasons why we went vegan. We went vegan and gluten-free. I changed up how I was exercising, brought in a lot of mindset, a lot of wellness as well. So I think it's a accumulation of like everything. But it really was mindset. I joined a Facebook group for women that had what I've got, and I remember saying to my husband, like, I feel seen. People get it because it's an invisible illness. So I was like, people finally get it. But I actually started to spiral downwards in my mind because it was validating how I felt, and I was going into victim mode. And I actually ended up it was the day I came out of that group that I decided, I was like, no, this isn't happening. I'm pushing the opposite way now. And I see now how that's made me so resilient, and it's made me so, like, even when I had my last baby, as I say, the pregnancy was horrific, and that part of the reason was that my hips were completely split and everything. And I remember, so I had a C-section, she was a C-section, and afterwards the doctor was like, okay, we can let you go home, but there's no pain meds we can give you because you can't have oral pain meds. And I was like, I feel amazing. I says, the amount of pain I've been in for the last 9 months carrying this baby.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Having a C-section, I feel amazing just now, and it's not the best way to build up resiliency, tolerance for pain and things, but I can see actually how everything I've been through and using my mindset to overcome and move past those things has made me who I am today, and so empathetic towards other people in any situation, and so grateful for like the smallest things ever. So even last week when I lost the power, I was like, I felt so grateful, probably the most I've ever been in my life, because I was like, that we're all safe, we're alive, we've got this fire. And also, like, when the power and electricity came back on, I'm like, we've got running water. Like, we were literally like turning all the lights on, and like my husband and my kids were putting the hot water tap on, and they're like, this is amazing.
But that's, I think, it's the gratitude to me that keeps coming through, Hayley. You whatever life throws at you are still looking at the positive. You are grateful. You are authentic, and it's, oh crikey. I mean, I don't know what the sort of the condition, what it is that that condition is that you've got, what that actually means, that you could probably explain in a moment. But it's that gratitude that you show for everything. And then you've also hit on another really important thing, and that's mindset. It's how we think about something, is how we I always think that life's an illusion of our own creation. It's how what we think is and what we project is what we attract back in. And actually, if you become that victim, and that is all that you actually end up being, isn't it? Whereas actually, if you show that gratitude and that appreciation, and as you said, oh God, all that pain I was in, I'm actually feeling so much better now. You're constantly focusing on the good stuff, so you that's what you get back as well. But what is it? What does that condition mean?
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome hypermobility type, or it's sometimes known as joint hypermobility syndrome. So it's a connective tissue disorder, and essentially, all my joints and all my muscles are too lax. So it's my muscles, my whole muscles, even like my eyes, my insides, everything has to overwork just to try and stabilize me. So it means like everything in my body's loose and there's no support. So I'd have to work out at the gym like 5 times a week just to have the normal stability of someone that never works out. And it leads to things like subluxations and dislocations. For me just now, so it causes stomach problems as well. So I've got really bad stomach problems, and then I've got tendinitis, carpal tunnel, and I've got 2 slip discs in my back just now as well.
Whoa!
So, because it's not the condition itself, it's a problem. It's what your body, it causes in your body because of that. So it causes so much, basically there's no support and everything's overworked. So you feel a lot more tired as well because your body's constantly overworking. And even things like if I go shopping to the supermarket, the amount of times like a sublat, I'm really lucky I don't get a lot of dislocations. Some people suffer really badly with dislocations, but I get a lot of subluxations. So it's like halfway to a dislocation, but it goes back in itself. The amount of times I'll be in a supermarket and I bend down to get something and my knee will just go, or like when I'm pushing the prams, like my wrist will go and things like that. So I used to have crutches, I used to have splints, I used to be all taped up and things.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm not anymore.
Wow!
And it's not that it's bad or anything. Some people need it, and I used to need it, but I also knew that when I was over supporting my body, it's like this vicious cycle of the best thing to do is to exercise and stabilize and do what you can. But when you're in that much pain, it's really hard to do. But long term, that's just going to make it worse. It's like letting other things do all the work for you. So again, it's mindset of going through the short-term discomfort to see that long-term gain at the back of it.
Yes, yeah. So did with the exercise, but also changing your diet, has that really made a difference then?
So much.
Yeah.
So much, because especially, so as I say, we're vegan and gluten-free, but especially dairy and gluten causes inflammation in the body. And that like my body gets inflamed so easily because it's under so much stress and so much pain. So that's helped with the inflammation in my body lots. It's helped with a lot of my stomach issues. I've also got endometriosis, and it's helped that, so I don't suffer as badly with that anymore. And I know my diet could still improve. There's so many amazing, yummy vegan food available now, like vegan galaxy chocolate.
Oh, really?
So I could definitely get, one of my goals is to go more sort of whole food, plant-based.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a drastic change. My husband, he's following the same diet, and so is my kids, and they all transitioned really easily as well.
That's amazing. So you've had some incredible life changes, haven't you? And challenges and stuff like that. It's amazing that you're so positive and so grateful. It's just brilliant. It's a real inspiration, and really, 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 truly are. So, what sort of top tips? I mean, we've discussed so much, and so much has been shared, and I'm hoping that the listeners have heard, and there's been so much they've gleaned already. But, what top tips would you say for anybody to harness happiness in their life?
Gratitude always, but it's sort of 1 foot in gratitude, 1 foot in desire. So it's not staying, so it's consistently growing, so consistently having a growth mindset of knowing that you can create any life you want. We all can, and I 100% believe that we can create any life that we want. But it's not about being so goal focused or goal driven that you're not present in this moment. So it's that mix, though, because if you get too present in the moment, you can get stuck here, and then you're not growing, so you don't have that that desire, that drive when you wake up in the morning, but it's not focusing so much on goals that you lose track of enjoying and being happy in your life right now. So I'd say it's a constant mix of, and it's like the work together. It's not one or the other. It's eternally grateful for everything you have right now, while absolutely believing and knowing that your desires are attainable, and you get to have it all now, but you get to have more of it all in the future as well.
Oh, that's great. I really love that. Yeah, it's like having that bigger picture, that you've got something that's sort of driving you and motivating you. Like you get in the car. If you get in the car, you need to know where you're going when you get in the car and drive. Otherwise, you just sit in the car park, don't you, on the drive? But yeah, it's absolutely knowing where. So having something to motivate you to do it, but actually, as you say, being appreciative of where you are, and everything's, great where it is. However, I'd like to be able to do that, and I can do that. It's just how it all, having that appreciation and manifestation, and actually having that intention, because actually once you know what it is you want to achieve, you recognise the opportunities that come in, and actually you can manifest those in as well, as long as you've got that sort of clear intention. Oh, wow, Hayley, I could talk to you for hours. It's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing so much today. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. So how do people get in touch with you if they actually want to speak to you or contact you? Because obviously you've mentioned Instagram a few times. Is that the best place for you?
Always. So I have got a website and I've got an email address and I'm on Facebook, but Instagram is I'm always on there. So yeah, it's Hayley Forbes Coaching on Instagram, and that is the best place, and it's me. I don't have anybody else running it for me. So if you message me on there, it will be me on the other side of it. So yeah, definitely, if anybody wants to chat more or connect, that's the best place to get me.
Oh, that's absolutely awesome. Thank you so much again. As I say, it's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for listening. This has been myself, Sarah J Naylor at Harnessing Happiness. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do rate, review, subscribe, follow, do whatever it is. Let's spread happiness globally. Yes, until next time, thank you so much for listening. And thank you again, Hayley.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been amazing.
Thanks for listening to the Harnessing Happiness podcast with Sarah J Naylor. If you took value from the content, please follow the show on your podcast app. And to find out more about Sarah's ape mindset, visit sarahjnaylor.com. That's Sarah J Naylor.